The shuttle dropped out of hyperspace, and Yuna pressed her face against the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. Station Pyra 7 hung in the darkness of space, spinning slowly against a backdrop of distant stars. It was massive. The whole thing was bigger than any city she had ever seen on Earth. Lights blinked across, its surface in patterns she did not understand. Ships moved around it like tiny insects around a hive. She was really here. After all the tests, all the interviews, all the years of training, she was finally here. The Galactic Academy was the most famous school in known space. Students came from over 200 different species to study here. They learned science, art, history, and combat. The best minds in the galaxy walked these halls. And now, for the first time in history, humans were allowed to join them. Yuna was one of 12 human exchange students. She was 22 years old, born in a small town near Bizen on the Korean peninsula. She was not tall. She was not particularly strong. By human standards, she was average in almost every way. But she had worked harder than anyone else to earn her place on this shuttle. The docking procedure took 20 minutes. When the doors finally opened, Yuna stepped onto the station and immediately felt small. The main arrival hall was filled with aliens. Tall ones, short ones, creatures with too many eyes and creatures with no eyes at all. A group of Velthari walked past her, and she had to crane her neck to see their faces. They were nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in plates of natural armor that looked like living crystal. Their skin caught the light and broke it into rainbows. They did not look at her. None of them looked at her. To these beings, humans were barely worth noticing. Yuna found her assigned quarters after getting lost twice. The room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a window looking out at the stars. She sat on the bed and let out a long breath. Her communication device buzzed. A message from Doyen, another human student she had met during the selection process. He was studying xenobiology on a different level of the station. Made it safe? His message read, "Yes, it's incredible here. It's also dangerous. Watch yourself. Not everyone is happy we're here." Yuna knew this already. Humans had only achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. By galactic standards, they were infants. Many species thought they were too primitive, too emotional, too fragile to deserve a place among the stars. The decision to allow human students into the academy had been controversial. Some species had threatened to withdraw entirely, but Earth had pushed hard for this opportunity. And 12 students had been chosen to prove that humanity belonged. The next morning, Yuna attended her first class, Advanced Tactical Studies. It was held in a large circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. She arrived early and chose a seat near the back, trying to be invisible. It did not work. As other students entered, she felt their eyes on her. Some looked curious. Most looked dismissive. A few looked openly hostile. The Velthari entered last. There were 3 of them, all male, all massive. They moved with the confidence of creatures who had never known fear. Their crystalline armor clinked softly as they walked. One of them was larger than the others. His plates were darker, almost black, shot through with veins of deep purple. He scanned the room until his eyes found Yuna. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. His name was Krath. She would learn this soon enough. The instructor was an Orani, a species with 6 limbs and a body like a giant spider wrapped in silk. Its voice came through a translation device in soft, neutral tones. "This course studies combat across species," the instructor said. "You will learn how different beings fight. You will learn their strengths and weaknesses. You will learn to survive against opponents who are faster, stronger, or more numerous than you." Krath raised an armored hand. "Why are there humans in this class?" The room went quiet. All species admitted to the academy may take any course, the instructor replied. But this is a combat course, Krath said. Humans have no combat ability. They are soft, fragile. They die if you look at them too hard. He turned to face Yuna directly. No offense intended. None taken, Yuna said calmly. The class continued, but Yuna felt the change in the air. Krath had marked her as a target. She had seen this behavior before, in schoolyards and training halls on Earth. Bullies were the same everywhere. No matter how many stars separated them. After class, Do-Yoon found her in the dining hall. He was a tall young man with a kind face and worried eyes. I heard what happened, he said, sitting across from her. Krath is bad news. His family has produced military commanders for 3,000 years. He's killed people in formal duels. Real kills, not simulations. Yuna ate her food slowly. He hit me with words today. Words don't hurt. Words come first. Violence comes after. That's how his species works. They provoke until you react. Then they claim self-defense and tear you apart. Do-Hyun leaned closer. He wants you to give him an excuse. Then I won't give him one. Yuna, I'm serious. These aren't Earth bullies. He could actually kill you. Yuna looked up from her meal. Her eyes were calm but hard. I know exactly what he is, she said. I've been preparing for creatures like him my whole life. Why do you think I spent 15 years in the training hall? Why do you think I studied alien anatomy until I could recite every weakness in my sleep? Do-Hyun stared at her. You expected this. I expected worse. She returned to her food. Humans have always been small. We've always been weak compared to what hunted us. Tigers, bears, wolves. We survived anyway. We didn't survive by being the strongest. We survived by being the smartest. By learning. By never giving up. This isn't Earth. These aren't tigers. No, Yuna agreed. They're just another predator who thinks we're prey. She smiled slightly. They're wrong. They just don't know it yet. That night, Yuna went to the training hall. It was empty at this hour. She stood in the center of the room, closed her eyes, and began to move. Her body flowed through forms she had practiced 10,000 times. Ancient techniques passed down through generations. Ways of fighting designed for small bodies against large ones. Ways of turning strength into weakness, size into disadvantage. She trained until her muscles burned. Then she trained some more. Somewhere on this station, Krath was probably sleeping peacefully, dreaming of the human he would humiliate tomorrow. Yuna smiled in the darkness. Let him dream. 3 weeks passed on Station Pyra 7. Yuna attended every class, completed every assignment, and spoke as little as possible. She became a shadow in the halls, noticed by few, bothered by fewer. Most students simply forgot she existed. Krath did not forget. Every day brought new insults. Small ones at first. Comments about human smell, human weakness, human stupidity. He called her species soft meat and laughed when his friends joined in. He knocked her materials off her desk as he walked past. He spoke about humans in class as if they were animals, not people. Yuna said nothing. She picked up her things. She continued her work. She did not react. This made Krath angry. He was used to breaking people quickly. His species resolved conflicts through dominance. When someone submitted, the game was over. But Yuna would not submit. She would not cry, would not shout, would not run away. She simply existed, calm and quiet, like a stone in a river, letting water flow around it. Why won't you fight back? Do-Hyun asked one evening. They were eating together in the dining hall, away from the other species. Fighting back is what he wants, Yuna said. If I attack him, he can claim I started it. His species has laws about this. The one who strikes first loses the moral high ground. The one who responds has the right to finish it. So you're just going to let him bully you forever? No. Yuna took a bite of her food. I'm waiting. For what? For him to make a mistake. The mistake came on a Tuesday. The instructor had announced a special demonstration day. Each student would show the class their species' primary physical advantage. It was meant to be educational, a way to understand different forms of combat without actual fighting. The Valkyrie went first. 3 of them stood together while the instructor fired practice weapons at them. The shots bounced off their crystal armor without leaving a mark. Their bodies were natural fortresses, evolved over millions of years to withstand any attack. The class was impressed. The Valkyrie looked proud. Next came the Moktai, a species of reptilian creatures with scales like knives. They demonstrated their venomous bite and their ability to see heat signatures in total darkness. Then the Trelawney showed their regeneration, allowing the instructor to cut off a small piece of flesh that grew back in seconds. Species after species displayed their gifts. Natural weapons, incredible senses, unbreakable bodies. The room filled with respect and sometimes fear. Then it was Yuna's turn. She walked to the center of the room. 200 eyes watched her. Compared to everything that had come before, she looked painfully ordinary. Soft skin, small body. No claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. Humans have no natural weapons, she said. Her voice was clear and calm. No armor, no venom, no special senses. Our bodies are fragile. We need food, water, and sleep constantly. By most measurements, we are among the weakest sapient species in the galaxy. Krath laughed from his seat. Others joined him. Yuna continued as if she had not heard. Our advantage is something you cannot see. We adapt. We learn. We study our enemies until we know them better than they know themselves. And we never, ever stop trying. Pathetic, Krath said loudly. This is supposed to impress us. You admit you have nothing. I said we have no natural weapons, Yuna replied. I did not say we were defenseless. The room grew quiet. Even the instructor seemed uncertain how to respond. Krath stood. His massive body unfolded from his seat like a mountain rising from the earth. His crystal armor caught the light and scattered it across the walls. Defenseless is exactly what you are, he said, walking toward the central platform. Each step made the floor vibrate slightly. Your species should never have been allowed here. You are an embarrassment to this academy. Every day you attend classes meant for real warriors. You insult everyone who actually belongs. Yuna watched him approach. She did not step back. My ancestors conquered star systems while yours were still hitting each other with rocks, Krath continued. We have fought and won wars that lasted longer than your species has existed. You are nothing. Your planet is nothing. Your entire race is a footnote in galactic history. He stopped directly in front of her. His shadow covered her completely. Up close, she could see the patterns in his crystal plates. The faint glow of his 3 hearts pumping luminescent blood through his body. Yet we're here, Yuna said quietly. The words hung in the air, in warrior cultures across the galaxy. Those 3 words meant something very specific. They were not an insult. They were not a threat. They were a statement of equality. A claim that the speaker had as much right to exist as anyone else. To Krath. Raised in a culture of hierarchy and dominance. It was the worst thing she could have said. His arm moved faster than most eyes could follow. An open palm strike, aimed at her face, meant to humiliate rather than kill. Among his people, such a blow was a clear message. Know your place. The impact was brutal. Yuna's body spun through the air. She hit the ground hard, sliding across the smooth floor until she struck the base of the seating platforms. Blood immediately began flowing from a deep cut on her cheek. Where his armored hand had torn her skin, the room went absolutely silent. The instructor raised a limb but did not intervene. By Galactic Academy law, if a challenge was issued and answered with physical contact, combat could proceed. No authority would interfere until one party submitted or was unable to continue. Krath walked toward her fallen body. His footsteps echoed in the silence. "Stay down, soft meat," he said. "This is where you belong. On the ground, beneath your betters." Yuna lay still for a moment. Blood dripped from her face onto the white floor, making small red circles that grew wider with each drop. Then her fingers moved. She pressed her palms against the floor. She pushed herself up, first to her knees, then to her feet. She turned to face him. Blood ran down her cheek and dripped from her jaw. Her uniform was torn. Her body was shaking slightly from the impact, but her eyes were calm, clear, focused. She wiped the blood from her face with the back of her hand. She looked at the red smear for a moment, as if considering what it meant. Then she looked at Ch. and she smiled. "You hit first," she said softly. "That was a mistake." She raised her hands into a position Krath did not recognize. Her weight shifted. Her breathing slowed. Somewhere in the watching crowd, Dohyun closed his eyes. He knew what was coming. Krath looked at the small human standing before him and felt something he had not felt in years. Confusion. She should be crying. She should be begging. Every other species he had dominated had shown fear at this point. Their bodies would shake, their voices would break, and they would submit. That was how the universe worked. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. But this human was not obeying. She was standing in some strange position with her hands raised, her weight balanced on the balls of her feet. Her eyes locked onto him like targeting systems. Blood still ran down her face, but she did not seem to notice. "What are you doing?" Krath asked. "Do you actually think you can fight me?" Yuna did not answer. She was focused entirely on his body now, watching how he stood, watching how he breathed, looking for the patterns that would tell her when he would move. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. When our ancestors faced lions and bears on the plains of Africa, they learned to read body language. They learned to predict attacks before they happened. They learned that survival was not about being stronger. It was about being smarter. Krath decided to end this quickly. He swung his right arm in a massive hook, the same blow that had cracked the armor of enemy soldiers on a dozen battlefields. His crystal fist moved through the air with enough force to break stone. It hit nothing. Yuna was not there anymore. She had read his shoulder movement, seen the slight shift in his weight, and moved before his arm even started swinging. Her body flowed like water around his attack, slipping beneath his arm so close that she felt the wind of his passing fist in her hair. Now she was inside his guard, close to his body. Where his long arms could not reach her. Her hands found the gap in his armor at the elbow joint. Every species had weak points. The Valthyri's armor was incredible, but it was not a solid shell. It had joints, places where plates met and muscles needed room to move. Humans had mapped these weaknesses decades ago, during first contact negotiations. Every human soldier, every human martial artist, had studied them. Yuna pressed her fingers into the soft tissue between the armor plates and pushed hard on a nerve cluster. Krath screamed. He had never felt pain like this. His species felt pain differently than humans. Their nervous systems were designed to ignore minor damage, to keep fighting through injuries that would stop other creatures. But Yuna was not causing minor damage. She was attacking the fundamental architecture of his body, pressing on points that sent cascades of agony through his system. He tried to grab her with his other arm, but she was already moving. Her body twisted around his, using him as a pivot point. Her leg swept against the back of his knee at the exact moment his weight was shifting forward. Physics did the rest. 3 meters of crystal-armored Veltari warrior crashed to the ground. The impact shook the entire room. Students scrambled back from their seats. The instructor's translation device made a series of sounds that might have been shock. Krath tried to rise, but Yuna was faster. She was on his back now, her knee pressing into the nerve cluster at the base of his skull, her forearm wrapped around his throat. She was not trying to choke him. Valtteri could hold their breath for 30 minutes. She was just establishing control. "Don't move," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, steady, as if she was discussing the weather, rather than pinning a warrior twice her size to the floor. Krath thrashed. His arms scraped against the ground, leaving gouges in the metal. His legs kicked. But every time he moved, Yuna adjusted her position, maintaining pressure on the nerve points that kept him in agony. "Your species has 3 hearts," she said, still in that quiet voice. 2 of them are protected by your chest plates. They sit behind the thickest part of your armor, safe from almost any attack. Krath stopped moving. He was listening now. "But your 3rd heart is different. It's smaller. It handles the blood flow to your brain." Yuna moved one hand from his throat and pressed a single finger against a point just below his jaw. "It's right here, barely covered by skin. Exposed. Always exposed." The room had gone completely silent. 200 students from dozens of species watched without breathing. "If I push hard enough," Yuna continued, "I could stop that heart. Your brain would lose blood supply in seconds. You would be dead in under a minute. There would be nothing anyone could do." Her finger pressed slightly harder. Not enough to damage. Just enough to prove she could. "I know exactly where every weak point on your body is," she said. "I know how your nerves connect. I know how your muscles attach. I know what will cause pain, what will cause paralysis, and what will cause death." She leaned closer to his ear. "Humans have been killing things bigger than us since before we could speak. We are very, very good at it." Krath lay perfectly still. His crystalline eyes were wide. For the first time in his long life, he understood something important. He was prey. He had always been prey. He just had not met the right predator until now. Yuna held her position for 5 more seconds. Then she released him. She stood up, stepped back, and walked away. She did not offer him a hand. She did not look back. She simply returned to her seat, picked up her notes, and sat down. Her hands were not shaking. Her breathing was normal. If not for the blood still drying on her face, she could have been sitting through a boring lecture. Krath remained on the ground for a long moment. His mind was struggling to process what had happened. He had been defeated. Completely and utterly defeated. By a human. By a female human half his size. In front of everyone, slowly, painfully, he stood. His body ached in places he did not know could ache. He looked around the room at the faces of his classmates. They were not looking at him with respect anymore. They were looking at him with something else. Pity. They pitied him. He walked out of the room without saying a word. Behind him, the instructor tried to continue the lesson, but no one was paying attention. They were all watching Yuna, the small human woman, who had just changed everything they thought they knew about her species. Dahyun found her eyes across the room. He looked terrified and impressed and confused all at once. Yuna gave him a small nod. Then she returned to taking notes, as if nothing had happened. The cut on her cheek was still bleeding. She would need medical treatment soon. But that could wait. Right now, she had a lecture to finish. That was what humans did. They got knocked down. They got hurt. And then they got back up and continued with their lives. It was not the most impressive ability in the galaxy, but it was the most dangerous. The news spread through Station Pyra 7 like fire through dry grass. By evening, Every student on the station knew what had happened. By morning, the story had reached 3 different star systems. A human had defeated a Velthari in single combat. Not just any. Velthari, Krath, son of a fleet admiral, member of one of the most ancient warrior bloodlines in the galaxy. A male who had killed 4 opponents in formal duels before he turned 20. And a human woman, barely more than a child by galactic standards, had put him on the ground in under 10 seconds. The recordings spread even faster than the rumors. Every student in that classroom had been wearing personal recording devices. Within hours, the footage was everywhere. Species who had never seen a human fight watched it over and over. Military analysts studied every movement. Combat instructors slowed it down frame by frame. What they saw disturbed them. It was not the victory itself. Larger opponents lost to smaller ones sometimes. Speed could defeat strength. Skill could overcome power. These things were known. What disturbed them was the look on the human's face. She had shown no fear, no anger, no excitement. Her expression had remained calm throughout, like someone performing a routine task. Like someone who had done this 1,000 times before, and the knowledge she had displayed. The precise targeting of nerve clusters. The understanding of Velthari anatomy that even most Velthari doctors did not possess. She had known exactly where to strike, exactly how much pressure to apply, exactly what effect each action would have. This was not lucky. This was not natural talent. This was the result of years of study and preparation, which meant humans had been preparing for this. They had expected violence from other species. They had trained for it. They had turned their physical weaknesses into advantages by understanding their potential. Enemies better than those enemies understood themselves. The implications were terrifying. Yuna spent the morning, after the fight in the medical bay, getting her cheek treated. The cut required 17 stitches and would leave a scar. She did not mind. Scars were proof that you had survived something. Dayun found her there, sitting on a bed while a medical drone finished its work. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Sore. That floor was harder than it looked." "Yuna, the whole station is talking about you. The whole sector is talking about you. I've gotten messages from Earth asking if the footage is real." "It's real. I know it's real. I was there." He sat down on a nearby chair and rubbed his face with his hands. "What I don't understand is how. I've seen you train, but I've never seen you fight like that. Where did you learn to do those things?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. The medical drone finished its work and floated away, leaving them alone. "Do you know what the first martial art was?" she asked. "What?" "On Earth, I mean. The very first system of fighting. It was created thousands of years ago by people who were surrounded by enemies. They were small. Their enemies were larger, stronger, better armed. They should have been destroyed, but they weren't. No, because they learned something important. They learned that the body has weak points. Places where a small amount of pressure can cause great pain. Places where the right strike can disable or kill, no matter how big the opponent is. They studied the human body until they understood it completely. Then they created fighting systems based on that knowledge." She turned to look at him. "Humans have been doing this for our entire history. Whenever we faced something stronger than us, we studied it. We learned its weaknesses. We developed techniques to exploit those weaknesses. It's how we survived. But Krath isn't human. How did you know where his weak points were?" Yuna smiled slightly. "Because humans have been studying alien species since the day we first made contact. The government has files on every species we've encountered. Their anatomy, their nervous systems, their psychological patterns. Every human who goes off-world is given access to that information." Dawn stared at her. You memorized the weak points of alien species? I memorized everything. For every species I might encounter, I know how they move, how they think, how they fight, and how they die. Her smile faded. I hoped I would never need that knowledge. But I prepared anyway. That's what humans do. We hope for peace while preparing for war. The door to the medical bay opened. 3 Valkyrie entered. 2 were large males in military uniforms. The third was even larger, with plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His presence filled the room like a physical weight. Yuna recognized him from her research. Fleet Admiral Tarek, Krat's father. She stood up slowly. Do-hyun moved to stand beside her, though they both knew he would be useless in a fight against these beings. The Admiral studied her for a long moment. His crystalline eyes moved across her face, taking in the fresh stitches, the dried blood on her collar, the way she stood without fear. "You are the one who defeated my son," he said. His voice was deep, resonant, like distant thunder. "Yes. I have watched the recording many times. I have consulted with combat masters. I have reviewed everything we know about human military capabilities." He paused. "What you did should not have been possible." Yuna said nothing. "My son believed humans were prey animals, soft creatures who had stumbled into space by accident. I confess that I believed something similar." The Admiral took a step closer. "I was wrong." Yuna remained still. "What happens now? Now?" The Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Now I must reconsider everything I thought I knew about your species. You are not prey. You are predators who choose not to hunt. That is a much more dangerous thing." He reached into his uniform and produced a small crystal. It pulsed with inner light. "This is a token of recognition," he said. "Among my people, it is given to warriors who have proven themselves in combat. It has never been given to a human before." He held it out to her. Yuna hesitated, then took it. "I do not give this because you defeated my son," the Admiral continued. "I give it because of what you did after. You had him helpless. You could have killed him. According to our laws, you would have been within your rights. But you chose to release him. You showed mercy when mercy was not required. Killing him would have proven nothing," Yuna said. "I wanted him to understand, not to die. And that is exactly what makes you dangerous." The Admiral turned toward the door. "My son will not return to this academy. He has much to think about, much to learn. Perhaps, in time, he will become wiser because of what happened today." He paused at the doorway. "I will be watching your species with great interest from now on. I suspect we all will." Then he was gone, and the room felt larger without him. Do-hyun let out a breath he had been holding. "I thought we were dead." Yuna looked at the crystal in her hand. It was warm against her skin, pulsing with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. "We were never in danger," she said quietly. "How can you possibly know that?" She closed her fingers around the crystal. "Because killing us would have started a war. And the Valkyrie, for all their strength, are very careful about starting wars. They've lived long enough to know that wars are expensive. Even wars you win." She walked toward the door. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have class in an hour. I don't want to be late." Do-hyun watched her go. She moved like nothing had happened, like she had not just changed the political landscape of the galaxy, like she had not just made every species reconsider what humans were capable of. He shook his head slowly. Humans were terrifying, and he was very, very glad to be one of them. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways no one had expected. Humans, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, were now treated very differently. Not with love, not with friendship, but with respect, and sometimes with fear. The footage of Yuna's fight had been studied by military academies across known space. Combat instructors showed it to their students as an example of what happened when you underestimated an opponent. Diplomatic trainers used it to teach a simple lesson: never assume weakness based on appearance. Krath had vanished from public life after the incident. Rumors said he had retreated to a monastery world to meditate on his failure. Other rumors said he had joined a remote research station, studying human culture and history. The truth was somewhere in between. When he finally re-emerged, he was different. The arrogance was gone. The casual cruelty had been replaced by something harder to define. He spoke about humans not with hatred, but with a strange kind of admiration. They are the most patient predators in the galaxy, he told a gathering of young Velthari warriors. They will wait years, decades, generations for the right moment. They will study you, learn you, become experts in your destruction. And when you finally give them a reason to act, they will end you before you even understand what is happening. He became one of humanity's strongest advocates in the Galactic Senate. When other species proposed restrictions on human expansion, Krath argued against them. When conflicts arose between human colonies and older civilizations, Krath worked for peaceful solutions. "You do not want a war with Earth," he would say. "You think you do. You think your armies would crush them. But you do not understand what you are dealing with. I did not understand either until a woman half my size taught me the truth while I lay helpless on the floor." Meanwhile, Yuna had graduated from the academy with the highest honors in its history. She was offered positions on a dozen worlds, opportunities that would have seemed like fantasy just 10 years earlier. She turned them all down. Instead, she returned to the Galactic Academy as an instructor. Her course was called Asymmetric Species Combat. It was designed to teach smaller, weaker species how to defend themselves against larger opponents. The techniques were based on human martial arts, adapted for different body types and physiologies. The first day of each semester, she gave the same speech. "Every species in this galaxy has natural weapons," she would say, standing in front of a room full of students from a dozen different worlds. Some of them were massive. Some were tiny. Some had claws or venom or armor. Some had nothing but soft bodies and quick minds. "Humans have none of these things," Yuna continued. "No claws. No fangs, no venom. No natural armor. When our ancestors walked the plains of our homeworld, we were surrounded by creatures that could kill us easily. We should have gone extinct. Every logical analysis says we should have died out millions of years ago." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "We did not die. We learned. We adapted. We turned our weakness into strength. We spent 10,000 years developing ways to fight things bigger than us, stronger than us, faster than us. And we won. Not once, but every single time. Every predator that hunted us is now either extinct or living in preserves we control." She walked among the students, making eye contact with each one. "That is what I am going to teach you. Not how to be strong. Not how to be fast. I will teach you how to think. How to observe. How to find the weakness that every opponent has, no matter how powerful they seem. I will teach you the most dangerous skill in the universe." "What skill is that?" a young student asked. Yuna smiled. The scar on her cheek caught the light. "Patience. The ability to wait until your enemy makes a mistake. The willingness to prepare for battles you hope will never come. The understanding that every fight is won or lost before the first blow is ever thrown." She returned to the front of the room. "There is an old saying on Earth. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. For thousands of years, humans were the smallest dogs in every fight. We survived anyway. We won anyway." She looked out at her students. Some were skeptical. Some were curious. Some were afraid. Good, she thought. Fear was the beginning of wisdom. In this class, you will learn what humans learned long ago. You will learn that strength is not the same as power, that size is not the same as danger, that the most terrifying creature in any room is not the one with the biggest claws. It is the one who has been watching, waiting, and planning. Years later, her students would spread across the galaxy. They would become diplomats and soldiers, scientists and explorers. And whenever they faced a situation that seemed hopeless, whenever they confronted an enemy that seemed unbeatable, they would remember what their human instructor had taught them: never give up. Never stop learning. Never assume you cannot win. Hit a human first, and you have started something. But humans are the ones who decide when it ends. The galaxy was vast and old and full of ancient powers. Species had risen and fallen like waves on a cosmic shore. Empires had expanded across thousands of stars, then crumbled to dust. But humans were still here, still growing, still learning, and they were just getting started. On a quiet evening, Una stood at the window of her office, looking out at the stars. The crystal that Admiral Tarek had given her sat on her desk, still pulsing gently with inner light. She kept it as a reminder of what had been, a reminder of what could be. Doyun visited sometimes. He had become a renowned xenobiologist, studying the interactions between human and alien physiologies. His work had saved thousands of lives. Do you ever regret it? He asked during one visit. The fight, I mean. Everything that came after. Una considered the question. She touched the scar on her cheek. It had faded over the years, but would never fully disappear. No, she said finally. I did what needed to be done. Not for revenge. Not for pride. I did it so the galaxy would understand who we are. And who are we? She turned away from the window and smiled at her old friend. We are the species that refuses to die. The species that learns from every defeat and comes back stronger. The species that turned weakness into our greatest weapon. Her smile widened. We are human, and we are just getting started. Outside the window, the stars burned with ancient light. Somewhere out there, species were watching Earth with new eyes, calculating, reconsidering, wondering what these strange, fragile, impossible creatures would do next on. They would find out soon enough. Humanity always had new lessons to teach, and the galaxy had a lot left to learn.